Hey everyone, it is great to be with you today on Read Through the Word. It is September the 10th. Have you ever been placed in a position that you did not ask to be placed in? Just think for a minute. Well, maybe you're in a position right now you did not ask to be placed in. Well, let's take it a little bit further. Maybe this place that you're placed in, this position that you're placed in right now, is something great and it was unexpected and you are living the dream. It is that immeasurably more that you could ever ask or imagine, and you are praising God and you are loving where you are. Maybe you're having challenges, but this is where you're supposed to be. It's where you dreamed of being. It is God's fulfillment in your life, and you just are loving life. But maybe you're in this position, you were placed in this position against your will or against your desire. Maybe not against your will. That's probably, well, I don't know, maybe some of us may be facing some of that. But you're in a position where you didn't ask to be in it. You're not happy with your surroundings. You're not happy with the people that you are surrounded by. And you're placed in authority over people who don't like you and who are very, very hostile to you. In fact, they even created some rule that if you followed it and if you didn't follow it, you were going to get in big, big trouble. Well, of course, I think you know where I'm going in this little example. Of course, we're talking about Daniel. Daniel has been placed in this position that he did not ask to go in. He was taken by force. And I will say most of us are probably not in a place like that, that we've been forced to go to a place. But he has been placed in a position that he did not want, that he was forced to be in. And yet, he is very precious to God. And I wrote in my journal, I would love for it to be said of me, for God to say of me, or a representative of God to say of me, you know what, Wendy? You are very precious to God. And what if it was recorded in black and white for others to read? And I don't mean that in a way that I'm trying to brag. I just would want to know that God found so much love. He had so much love for me and was so pleased with me that he wrote about it, right? And in fact, one of the translations, I think it's the ESV, says, "Oh, Daniel, man greatly beloved." This phrase, greatly beloved, is repeated in verse 19, or depending on which translation you're reading. We're reading the NLT, which is precious to God. But this whole idea is also repeated in chapter 9 of Daniel, verse 23. So on more than one occasion, Daniel is getting this great affirmation of God's love for him. And here's the thing. He is placed in a position where he is asked to be strong when he has been placed in a position that he never asked to be in. He did nothing wrong. He was a faithful person, and yet he's placed in captivity, and he is forced to do a job that he didn't want to do. And just as I started reading today, this fell fresh on me. It was as if the Lord just said to me, Wendy, this man, this young boy, it started out as a young boy, served me faithfully in a position that he did not ask for, in a place that he did not want to go, and do things that he did not want to do. But he never, when I say did things he didn't want to do, he never broke the law of the Lord. And so this is what I want us to gather from today's lesson. I mean, there's so many details that we could go into. But I just see today's lesson as just a pep talk for us and an overall look at Daniel and where he is right now. He is asked to interpret dreams for kings. He is asked, he is a valued member of the administration. And he's placed in this position for a reason. He is been told that he's greatly beloved and he's precious to God for some reasons. So how do we, and how did he stay strong when he was not in the wrong and he was in a place he didn't want to be in? How do we do that? And I feel like this is such a, I feel very overwhelmed as I'm teaching this. Not overwhelmed to tears, but just urgent, maybe is the best word. There's an urgency because I feel like somebody needs to hear this. How do I stay strong when I'm in a place I don't want to be, I didn't ask to be, and I'm doing things that I really don't want to do, but I'm in this position? How do I stay strong in this position? And this is what we can learn from David's life. He never compromised his convictions. From the very beginning, he never compromised his convictions. Do you remember what he ate? Remember what all the other young Hebrew boys were eating? They were eating from the king's table, not David. He never compromised his convictions. And we have to stay strong in our convictions if we want to stand strong when we're in a place where we never asked to be. He never changed his habits. He always prayed at the same time, towards the same place, in the same direction. That never changed for him. He never demonstrated hostility. When he was told, you're going to be thrown in the lion's den or you're going to be thrown in the fire, he never ran. He never tried to justify himself. You never saw that. You always saw wise and discerning comments and remarks and responses to hostile situations, but you never saw him be hostile towards his authority, but also to the people that he worked with. And I think that's probably harder than anything, right? To not be hostile to those who are hostile towards us. Remember the guys that set up the edict that said you've got to pray for 30 days. You can't pray to any other God. Well, I think I might be a little hostile to those people, right? But he was not. It wasn't demonstrated that he was. He never got puffed up with pride. He was always humbled, and he always turned it back to God and said, it's not me that's interpreting this dream. It is God. This doesn't come from me. This comes from God. And he approaches the king, and he was like, look, I'm telling you this. You need to turn from your ways, and you need to repent. And then what did he do? What happened was exactly what happened to Nebuchadnezzar is what the dream said. He got too puffed up with pride, and he ended up out there eating some grass. For times and a period and a time and a period, whatever that might have been. And then lastly, to stay strong, when we hear something from God, we just need to obey it. That's exactly what he did. He heard from God. He interpreted these visions. He saw these prophecies, and he just obeyed them. He did exactly what God told him to do. This is how Daniel stayed strong. This is how Daniel was called a precious to God, greatly beloved. And here I've in case you're wondering today, am I loved? Am I greatly loved? Am I precious to God? I put some verses there just to remind you that you are precious to God. He gave his life for you. He gave his life for me. And there's some other verses. I'm not going to read them, but you read them and you reassure yourself that you are precious to God. You are greatly beloved by God. And when you know that, start living by these same principles that David did, and you will stay strong when you were not wrong, but placed in a position that you did not ask for and doing things that you don't want to do. We'll see you tomorrow on Read Through the Word.